Every morning, in the seconds after you wake up, your body faces a quiet cardiovascular challenge. During sleep, your heart rate and blood pressure remain at their lowest. The moment you regain consciousness, however, a dramatic spike in blood pressure occurs, a phenomenon physicians call the morning blood pressure surge. Research has confirmed that this brief window of surging pressure carries the highest risk of stroke and heart attack across the entire day, with studies showing that the morning surge raises the hazard for cardiovascular events by 30 to 45% compared to other times of day. Yet the simplest possible intervention for softening this surge may be something you have been doing instinctively since childhood: stretching your entire body while still lying in bed. Today, we will explain exactly what happens inside your blood vessels when you perform a morning stretch, drawing on the most recent scientific evidence. To understand the benefit, we first need to picture what happens to your blood vessels overnight. For roughly 8 hours, your muscles are almost completely still. The blood vessels woven through those muscles narrow and remain in a contracted state. By the time you wake up, both muscle and vessel are in a kind of stagnation, rising suddenly without any preparatory movement forces your heart to pump a larger volume of blood through vessels that have not yet reopened. A mismatch that drives the dangerous morning pressure spike. The molecular mechanism linking stretching to vasodilation centers on the endothelial cells that line the inner wall of every blood vessel. These cells are not passive barriers. When the muscle tissue surrounding a vessel is mechanically stretched, the endothelial cells detect that physical elongation and respond by activating endothelial nitric oxide synthase, the enzyme that produces nitric oxide. Nitric oxide then diffuses into the smooth muscle, wrapping the vessel wall, and signals it to relax, widening the vessel's diameter and reducing the resistance against which the heart must pump. This mechanism has been confirmed in rigorous experimental research. A study published in the Journal of Physiology demonstrated that 4 weeks of daily passive muscle stretching in aged animals significantly enhanced endothelium-dependent vasodilation of skeletal muscle resistance arterioles. Immunohistochemical analysis showed that endothelial nitric oxide synthase levels were elevated in the arterioles of stretched limbs. Beyond this immediate dilation response, angiogenic markers, including vascular endothelial growth factor and hypoxia-inducible factor, increased, and the capillary-to-muscle fiber ratio rose significantly. In other words, sustained daily stretching did not merely open existing vessels temporarily. It triggered the growth of new capillaries, structurally improving the blood supply to muscle tissue over time. Human clinical data support the same conclusion. A 2025 systematic review and meta-analysis synthesized 11 clinical trials conducted between 2014 and 2025, evaluating the effects of stretching interventions on blood pressure in adults with elevated or high blood pressure. The pooled results showed a statistically significant reduction in diastolic blood pressure of 3.93 mmHg in favor of stretching. In sensitivity analyses, reductions reached up to 6.6 mm of mercury for systolic and 5.4 mmHg for diastolic pressure. Secondary vascular outcomes, including brachial ankle pulse wave velocity and the cardio ankle vascular index, both markers of arterial stiffness, also improved in stretching groups across multiple studies. Perhaps the most striking evidence comes from a direct comparison between stretching and walking. Researchers at the University of Saskatchewan assigned participants with high normal blood pressure or stage I hypertension to either an 8-week whole-body static stretching program or an 8-week brisk walking program. Each performed 5 days per week for 30 minutes per session. Both groups showed significant reductions in systolic and diastolic blood pressure, but the reductions were greater in the stretching group than in the walking group. The researchers proposed that when muscles are stretched, the vessels running through them are physically elongated as well, which reduces arterial stiffness and suppresses sympathetic nervous system activation, a fundamentally different mechanism than the cardiovascular training effect produced by aerobic walking. All of this science applies directly to the morning stretch you perform in bed. When you extend your arms overhead and push your feet downward, simultaneously, lengthening every major muscle group at once. You are sending simultaneous nitric oxide release signals to blood vessels throughout your body. As those vessels gradually dilate, the resistance against which your heart pumps decreases and the sharp morning blood pressure surge is buffered. At the same time, the lymphatic vessels running alongside your arteries and veins are gently compressed and released, stimulating the clearance of metabolic waste that accumulated overnight, and blood flow to peripheral muscles begins to normalize, preparing the whole body to wake up, gradually rather than abruptly. For the most effective technique, begin the moment your eyes open while you are still lying flat. Take one slow deep breath first, then extend both arms as far overhead as possible, while simultaneously pushing both feet away from you, making your entire body as long as you can. Hold this full body stretch for 15 to 20 seconds, breathing normally throughout, then slowly release. Repeat 2 to 3 times. After the stretches, rather than sitting up immediately, roll onto one side. Draw your knees toward your chest, in a loose fetal position for about 10 seconds, and then ease yourself upright. This entire sequence takes less than 2 minutes, requires no equipment, and can be completed entirely within your bedding. For those managing hypertension or recovering from a cardiovascular event, this habit carries particular importance since the morning surge places the greatest acute stress on already vulnerable vessels. Stretching cannot replace medication or professional medical guidance, and anyone with a diagnosed cardiovascular condition should follow their physician's recommendations first. However, as a complementary daily habit practiced alongside medical treatment, a morning stretch that gently awakens the vascular system stands as one of the most accessible, evidence-supported forms of self-care available. Every morning, before you reach for your phone, your blood vessels are waiting for your first decision of the day. Give them 15 seconds of full body extension. That small act may be enough to carry you through the most cardiovascular vulnerable moment of the day with noticeably less risk. Small habits shape vessels. Healthy vessels shape lives.